There were two things after last Thursday's Impact that a lot of TNA fans seem to be taking to the social media and were a Twitter and a Facebooking and a YouTubing and a dirt sheeting all about, and they're all giggly tits about it and what have you. One of them involved Bobby Lashley, and one of them involved the showdown between Tommy Dreamer and Dixie Carter. Now, I understand why a lot of these fans were excited and, to borrow my own phrase, giggly tits about this. One involved a world title change, and another one harkened back to an era of wrestling gone by that we so often try to cling to and only hope for and wish to come back. And, to be fair, the actual segment itself was set up to very well. I like the way that TNA as a company utilize social media to get the message out there and to try and draw people in. They incorporated social media into a storyline here. It might sound simplistic, to say that that was a good thing, but it was a good thing. And then you get Tommy Dreamer's performance, and this work shoot was really good as a work shoot. Tommy Dreamer sold you on his passion, sold you on his frustration, sold you on him being your representation on screen, speaking to Dixie Carter, basically telling her, you're not a wrestler, you don't know what the hell you're doing, and get your head out of your ass. And it's those work shoots with those elements of reality that a lot of us more serious fans really tend to gravitate to. We tend to cling to. We tend to hold on to very close and say, these are great promos. See CM Punk's pipe bomb as an example. I'm kind of hit or miss when it comes to work shoots because I think, sometimes they're fine and sometimes they have a place. But to me, the really great promo cutter is the guy that can actually stay 100% in character and get that type of reaction without having to break down that fourth wall or anything like that. But as I knew would happen, a lot of people would be buzzing about this and talking about how this was great and how this was awesome. It was pretty predictable. I knew it was going to happen. And like I said, on the one hand, it was fair. It was decent. It made for okay television. But then on the other hand, it just represented some other things to me. And, here's what I got to say. It is time to let ECW rest. Now, mind you, I'm somebody that grew up watching ECW. I actually remember ECW. I was a fan of ECW up until the very end. Up until the very, very end. I was able to experience ECW. I was able to understand ECW. I was able to relate to and buy into ECW and appreciate the impact that it was having on the business and had for a period of time and still in some way still has to this day. I lived it, I breathed it, I slept it, and sometimes maybe I shit it too. And I love ECW. I'll always have a special place in my heart for ECW. And I miss ECW to this day. But damn it all, at some point in time, it's time to let it go. And for some reason, wrestling fans in general don't seem to grasp this and seem to want to keep clinging to this, nostalgia from days gone by. It's like me as a Bears fan, I still cling to the freaking 85 Bears. They won it back when I was 4 years old. It was 29 years ago. It's time to move on. It's time to let it go. It was great when it's happened, but it's not happening anymore. And it's the same thing with ECW. No matter how much you pine for the old glory days and how much you pine for that to come back, it's not coming back. That era of professional wrestling is poof, gone. Never to return. Get over it. Accept it. And for some reason, TNA in particular doesn't seem to get this and doesn't seem to understand this. You have been down this road before. Remember 2010. You bring in this whole EV 2.0 faction. You throw your entire wrestling company under the bus to give a platform to a bunch of old ECW guys to work a pay-per-view, and their company hasn't been around in over 9 freaking years. You throw your entire roster under the bus, sans RVD, and give these guys a pay-per-view. Now, from TNA's business standpoint, I believe it was the best pay-per-view buy rate that they ever did. And maybe that's why they think it's a good thing. But what did it do for you long-term? It's like so often the business model with TNA, short-term versus long-term. Frankly, with WWE today, short-term versus long-term. You can sit there and keep hanging your hat on these meaningless short-term successes. What does it do for you going 6 months, a year, 18, 24 months, 4 or 5 years down the damn road? What did that whole hardcore justice thing in 2010 do for you? What did that whole EV 2.0 faction do for you? At the end of the day, it did nothing to help out and benefit your company from a long-term standpoint. So I don't get why TNA wants to go back down this road again in any way, shape, or form other than as a desperate, pathetic attempt to grab for a little ratings, hoping maybe that they're going to get something to pop. Here's the thing. In 2014, when TNA is really struggling as a company, in my opinion, to establish an identity, and I'm not even sure that they've had an identity for years, the fans chanting for a wrestling company in ECW that hasn't been around for over 13 damn years, and oh, by the way, the name is owned by the WWE, that's not a good thing. You want fans to be chanting for your wrestlers' names. Or if they are going to chant for a company, maybe they chant for TNA or Impact Wrestling, not ECW. ECW. No, that's not good. This is 2014. I would think if you're TNA, you want TNA fans to be chanting for TNA, not ECW, a company that hasn't been around for 13 years that you don't even own the freaking naming rights to. And the thing that frustrates me so much about this is that TNA so often wants to, kind of attach themselves to the legacy of ECW and keep trying to go up that ECW road. And they're forgetting some of the fundamental lessons from ECW that I was able to experience and witness. And a lot of you that are watching this were able to witness and experience. Paul Heyman and ECW, they identified their target audience and they went after it. They aggressively pursued that 18 to 34-year-old male demographic by going at them with sexual shit and hardcore shit and testosterone-laden action and all types of that stuff. They identified the demographic they were going to go after, and then they structured themselves as a product and a company and a creative vision as a company and aggressively pursued it. They gave themselves a unique identity as a company. One of the most ridiculous things that I have ever heard is when the WWE on one of their DVDs says, oh, the curtain call, Madison Square Garden, and this changed everything, and the Montreal Screwjob, this really yanked the curtain back. Hey, ding dong, dumb dicks, there were several instances of ECW breaking down the kayfabe wall well before WCW or WWF sure as hell did it. ECW had that unique identity. People knew what to expect, good, bad, or otherwise, out of ECW. They knew it because ECW understood who they were and who they wanted to be, who their audience was going to be, and how they were going to pursue them. ECW also gave a lot of opportunities and made a lot of stars from some guys that were rejects from bigger companies and from some guys that had never really gotten the opportunity. ECW was like a melting pot for all different types of guys, and they made it work with all different types of guys. And they created opportunities, gave guys opportunities. Guys took those opportunities and made the most out of it, and a lot of them went on to bigger and better things. They became stars. Something that TNA, again, desperately seems to fail to understand and grasp. And also the thing with ECW, and this is why it's so ridiculous when other wrestling companies try to latch themselves on to the ECW legacy. ECW was a company that was focused on the present and, more importantly, the future, not the past. Paul Heyman took that company in a creative direction to get them as far away from the traditional way of professional wrestling, the Lou Theszes and the Vern Gagnes of the world, as he possibly could. He understood the times that he was in, and he understood the direction that was going to be required if he was going to make an imprint on the wrestling business. He went in that direction, and by God, he made an imprint in the wrestling business. Where to the point WCW and WWF, in their war between each other, they were raiding the ECW locker room for talent. They were raiding ECW for their storylines and their ideas and their concepts and every freaking thing. But again, ECW didn't sit there and try to write their show like it was Vern Gagne in the AWA on the old, let's say, DuPont network. They were trying to look at the present and, more importantly, the future, not the freaking past. And also keep in mind, too, that ECW, again, is gone and has been for 13 plus fucking years. And it went out of business because of terrible monetary management and fiscal policy, if you will, by Paul Heyman, him being a terrible businessman as he is, as great of a creative mind as he was, and the bad television deal that they had, oh yes, that Heyman agreed to with, TNN, which was the old name for what is now Spike TV. So you would think TNA in 2014, and hopefully that the people running the goddamn wrestling company would understand that you've been down this road before. It hasn't worked. If it works so goddamn well for ECW, how come they haven't been around as a company for 13 plus years? And no, don't you dare bring up that rehash that WWE did. I always think that was intentionally done by Vince McMahon to piss all of us old ECW fans off so that way he could kill off the old ECW chants, because how could we sit there and chant for it anymore after that crap? Seriously. And what's this all going to lead up to, TNA? A fucking invasion angle from Tommy Dreamer's House of Hardcore? Oh, who you going to bring in? You're going to have Bully Ray aligned with Tommy Dreamer. And then here's going to come the Sandman or something. And here's going to come the franchise Shane Douglas. Or here comes fucking Jerry Lynn. You know, if this was 1999 or 2000, man, I'm probably popping a chubber for it. But 2014, not so much. And again, we have been down this fucking road before. So this whole thing about Tommy Dreamer's work shoot promo. Okay, if you thought it was good, it was good. But just because it's a work shoot and he has to incorporate these type of things, that doesn't make it a great promo. You know, I like the way that TNA tried to incorporate social media to set up a storyline, but what's it setting up to? Another freaking invasion angle where Dixie Carter, again, seems to be like the biggest mark in the wrestling business and doesn't seem to understand the lessons of the company that she is trying to appeal to, the company that she is trying to be. I watched ECW. I was a fan of the company. I loved ECW. I understood ECW. I got ECW. I experienced how they changed and impacted the professional wrestling business for years and years. But at some point in time, they're not around for an effing reason. ECW hasn't been around for over 13 damn years for a reason. If TNA wants to do something positive to affect some real, tangible, credible, good change for their company in the present and in the future, stop looking backwards. Start looking forward. Start looking ahead and start figuring out where you want to go and how you're freaking going to get there. And I assure you, doing a House of Hardcore invasion angle is not going to be it. Focusing on ECW type concepts and characters and the freaking brand itself that you don't even own the naming rights to in 2014 for a company, again, that has been gone ding dong dum dicks for over 13 fucking years is not the way to get it done. Learn from ECW. Learn what they did well. Just as importantly, learn what they didn't do well. Then try to incorporate those lessons into your business and make your business better. Giving Tommy Dreamer and his House of Hardcore television time is not something that TNA needs to do. That is not helping TNA's product. This is ridiculous. TNA needs to establish their own identity. They actually need to give people opportunities and make people stars. They need to do all of this shit that they're not freaking doing. And most importantly of all, just like a lot of wrestling fans, I understand. I miss ECW to this day, and I will always miss ECW. But at some point in time, can we all just let it go?